Fortunate is he who remembers Allah abundantly, worldly distractions cannot mildly sway his thoughts of Allah and Judgment Day. Righteous is he who bows to one he cannot see, whose deeds do not spring without Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulil Kareem. Dear guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the program, The Excellence of Manners. I'm your host, Muhammad Mamdouh. And in this program, we are talking about the manners that we are supposed to have in order for us to live our lives the way that Allah wants, and to properly pass the test that Allah has given us, and how to deal with people on a daily basis in any situation that comes along. It is through these manners that we have been speaking about. We've already covered some very basic ones like truthfulness and humbleness and patience, and having all these manners will inshallah lead us to the highest level in paradise. With us, of course, is our guest who has been teaching us, Sheikh Saeed El-Gadi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad, may Allah bless you and reward you.
Jazakumullah khair. Allah says in the Quran, "O you who believe, fulfill your promises." And in this episode, we're going to be talking about fulfilling the promises that we make. What does it mean to fulfill your promise?
Jazakallah khair. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad. All praise due to Allah alone. We praise Him, we thank Him, we seek His guidance and His forgiveness. And we repent to Him. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our souls and our sinful deeds. Whosoever Allah guides, none can mislead. And whoever Allah misleads, none can guide. I bear a witness that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah, and I bear a witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and His last messenger. Fulfilling the promises is not to come on time or to arrive on time only. It is to fulfill all commitments that you've made upon yourself. All commitments that you promised others about. And it is one of the actions and the manners that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the person who fulfill His promises.
So anything that you say you're going to do. Basically.
Otherwise, don't say that I'm going to do it.
Don't commit to doing something.
Don't commit towards it.
And this is the real understanding of this.
Of fulfilling promises. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He spoke about this manner, He mentioned a prophet who was known of fulfilling his promises. And because of this, the great importance of this attribute, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this prophet with this attribute. Allah ta'ala said, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِسْمَاعِيلَ, and give mention in the scripture of Ismail. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ, he was a man who keeps his promises. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَادِقَ الْوَعْدِ وَكَانَ رَسُولًا نَبِيًّا, and he was a messenger and a prophet. He was a man who keeps his promises. And the ulama, when they spoke about this verse, they said Allah Ta'ala called him as a man who keeps his promises because he promised his father that he would be patient. Because when his father saw in the dream that he must sacrifice him, as Allah Ta'ala in the Quran said, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعِي, when Ismail reached enough age, when he was old enough to walk, and at that time you will love your son the most, and Allah Ta'ala ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter him, or to sacrifice him, to see how Ibrahim loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said to his son Ibrahim alayhi salam, although he loves him so much, he said to him, إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ يَا بُنَيَّ, oh my son, I see in the dream that I must sacrifice you. What Ismail said? He made a promise. He said, قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر. Oh my son, oh my father, do what you are commanded to do. ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. You shall find me by the will of Allah from those who are patient. And he was patient.
Subhanallah.
Allah Ta'ala, when he described there the actual scene, Allah Ta'ala said, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. And when Ibrahim flung him down, and he was about to slaughter him, when he pushed his forehead backwards, and he was about to slaughter him, at that time, Allah Ta'ala sent to them some angels with a sheep to sacrifice instead. فلما أسلم وتله للجبين وناديناه يا إبراهيم. Oh, Ibrahim, is enough. You've been truthful, you've been submissive, you've been surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You basically passed the test.
It was a test.
The test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to see if you would do it or not.
Yeah.
And we want to go back to Ismail now, who made the promise, and Allah emphasized that this was a great quality that he had.
He had. And some ulama said that he was ascribed by this manner because in one occasion he had a meeting with someone, and he went to meet him on time. He was there on time, but the man who was supposed to meet him forgot about the meeting. And he didn't remember until the next day, and Ismail was waiting there for a full day. And this is mentioned in Ibn Kathir and in Al-Tabari. But it is from Banu Israel's news. We cannot believe them, we cannot deny them.
But
it shows how he was.
Yeah, it's something, I mean, amazing that you would
wait for one full day, waiting for someone, and you are a prophet.
Because you gave your word.
He gave your word.
Subhanallah.
Because he gave his word. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. And is there a rule on keeping your word and your promise? For example, if you don't keep your word, do you get punished for it?
You get punished for it. It is wajib. If you promise someone, it is wajib upon you to fulfill your promises. Allah Ta'ala in the Quran said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَوْفُوا بِالْعُقُودِ. Oh, you believe. Fulfill your promises and fulfill your obligations. Al-Qurtubi, one of the great scholars, said that it is a clear evidence that whenever you promise something, that you must fulfill it. Whether it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or with people, or with Muslims, or with non-Muslims. You will have to fulfill all obligations that you've made upon yourself.
SubhanAllah. And we already actually spoke in a previous episode about guarding your tongue. So it's one of the things.
Don't promise unless
don't make a promise unless you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, and you're
going to be asked about it.
You're going to be asked about it
in the day of judgment. Allah Ta'ala in the Quran said, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ, and fulfill your promises. إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Indeed, your promises or your covenants will be questioned about in the day of judgment. Allah Ta'ala will ask about them. So make sure you don't promise unless if you can do so.
Yes, very good advice.
Inshallah.
And this action, of course, we like to link with matters of the heart. Is there a link between keeping your promise and righteousness?
And iman.
And piety?
There's a link. There's a link between fulfilling your promises and righteousness or iman, as you mentioned. Allah Ta'ala, when He spoke about the righteous people and about the believers, He mentioned one of their attributes to fulfill the promises. The true believers fulfill the promises. Allah Ta'ala said, لَيْسَ الْبِرْ. Righteousness is not to turn your faces towards the east or the west. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر. But righteousness is to believe in Allah and in the hereafter and in the angels. And then at the end Allah Ta'ala said وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. And those who fulfill their promises whenever they make promises. It is a sign of righteousness. It is an attribute of righteousness. It's a sign of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in the hereafter. And it is a description or an expression of truthfulness. It's an expression of truthfulness and an expression of piety. Because Allah Ta'ala at the end said, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا. Those are the truthful ones. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. And they are the pious ones.
And this is a way to achieve true belief and true
In Allah
piety.
Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, yes.
Is to, one of them actually is
One of them to believe and to acquire piety. And that's why Allah Ta'ala said, بَلَى مَنْ أَوْفَى بِعَهْدِهِ وَاتَّقَى فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Nay, but the one who fulfills his promises and fears Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala the most, indeed Allah loves those who are pious. There's a link between Iman and fulfilling promises, and a link between Iman and piety.
May Allah make us from those who are pious.
And piety and fulfilling promises.
Inshallah.
May Allah make us from them. Ameen.
Ameen. Inshallah. Ameen. This is a practical topic that people need to be careful when they make just any small, like I'll meet you tomorrow at such and such time or something like that. Are there any promises that we make to people that we're supposed to hurry up in doing?
Yes, definitely. There's a promise that should take priority in fulfilling it. That promise is the promise that you've made at the time of the contract of your marriage. If you promise your wife anything at that time, you must fulfill it as soon as you can. In the hadith, إن أحق ما أديتم من الشروط إن أحق ما استوفيتم من الشروط ما استحللتم به الفروج. The one that the promise that should take more priority in fulfilling it is the promise that you've made at the time of contract, time of marriage, to your wife. Anything you've promised her to give, you should give her as soon as you can, or you should hasten in doing it, in fulfilling it, inshallah ta'ala.
How about after that? Anything after that? Or just now, after that, it's just the general, anything you promise?
General, anything you promise to
try to do it as fast
to
as
people,
you can.
yeah.
To
but
people.
to Allah, should give it more priority.
What about the people that just make promises continuously? They're always saying, okay, I'll do this for you, or no, let's do this, and then they make a promise, and then they just say this. And they don't really care that they've made this promise.
Do they fulfill the promises or not?
They don't.
They don't. We have a hadith, which is a clear hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, three are the signs of the hypocrite. Three are the sign of the hypocrite.
This is going to be a lengthy, almost question. We're going to continue when we come back from our break. Jazakumullah khair. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly, inshallah, to the excellence of manners with our Shaykh Saeed El-Gadi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Fortunate is he who remembers Allah abundantly. لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد
Hajj Insights. Are you making the journey to Hajj? Are you sure about the rituals it entails? Fortify your knowledge of the rites of Hajj with Sheikh Muhammad Salah and brother Ridwan Shamim.
وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا.
We will ask the Sheikh initially, why is Hajj so important?
Because Hajj and Umrah, they remove and remit sins and they prevent poverty. So those in the past who used to travel on foot, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا. Obviously Hajj is the only pillar which is ordained once per lifetime. رجع shall return home كيوم ولدته أمه, as pure as the same day his mother gave birth to him.
Viewers, as you heard, some really great benefits of Hajj. We'll find out a bit more about Hajj and who should be going Hajj and more of the benefits of Hajj.
As Huda TV presents Hajj Insights. Know the rituals of Hajj from beginning to end.
إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Huda, a light in every home.
Fortunate is he who remembers Allah abundantly.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome back to the program, The Excellence of Manners. Before the break, we were discussing the making a promise and keeping the promise, basically keeping your word anytime you make a promise. We mentioned that fulfilling your promise, once you make a promise, you have to fulfill it. And if you don't fulfill it, that there's a punishment for that, and that Allah will ask you about everything that you say. Also, we spoke about the link between fulfilling your promises and faith and righteousness. That there's a link between this act of worship or this manner and true faith. We're joined, of course, with Sheikh Saeed. Sheikh Saeed, assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Hayyak Allah Muhammad, may Allah bless you.
Jazakumullah khair. Before the break, we were discussing, or I asked you a question about people that make promises and don't fulfill them. Can we go back into this conversation?
Inshallah ta'ala. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke about those people. And he spoke about the signs of the hypocrites. He said that 3 are the signs of the hypocrite. He said, the hypocrite is the one who whenever he speaks, he lies. And the one who, whenever he promises, he breaks his promises. And whenever he is entrusted, he betrays. And it is in Sahih Bukhari.
And hypocrisy is something that we know is a very dangerous ground to be on and to even come close to. And this is one of the actions that
will lead to hypocrisy.
Will lead to hypocrisy. And are identified by them.
That's right. You can tell a person that he has a manner of hypocrisy by this issue, which is breaking the promises. And Allah Ta'ala in the Quran, when He mentioned this manner, breaking promises, He mentioned it to be one of the qualities of the rebellious, of those who are wrongdoers. Allah Ta'ala said, وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. Allah Ta'ala will not mislead except those who are rebellious and wrongdoers. الَّذِينَ يَنقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ مِن بَعْدِ مِيثَاقِهِ. Those who breaks the covenant of Allah Ta'ala after ratifying it. They break the covenant of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
And is this the covenant, a promise that you made to Allah? Or
to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, yeah. And it is general. When you break the promises, it's a sign of nifaq.
Subhanallah. Nah. So we should really, really take care of it. Of something like this.
Nah.
We have also a gray area in the matter because hypocrisy, of course, is something that is dangerous. What about people that are really truthful and they're honest, but sometimes they break their promises, whether small or big? They have this defect.
They still have this manner of nifaq and this sign of nifaq. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said the believer might be afflicted with this. With some signs of nifaq, some signs of hypocrisy, and he must get rid of them. And in the hadith, in the sound hadith, Rasulullah said, Muhammad, he said that 4 actions or attributes or manners, if you possess them, if you have them, then you will be a sheer munafiq, a clear munafiq. You will be a sheer hypocrite. A sheer hypocrite. But if you possess one of them, you will have a sign of nifaq. You will have a sign of hypocrisy.
So if you have all 4,
you are a sheer munafiq, and that will lead you to nifaq, to the big nifaq, to the major nifaq, major hypocrisy. And if you have one of them, you will have an attribute of the munafiqeen, of the hypocrites.
Okay.
He said, if the one who lies, the one who's when he speaks, he lies. When he is entrusted, he betrays. When he promises, he breaks his promises. When he promises, he breaks his promises. And he added one, when he argues, he behaves in a very insulting manner. وَإِذَا خَاصَمْ فَجَرٍ. If you have one of them, you have a sign of nifaq, sign of hypocrisy.
So this is something that if we have, if you're a truthful person in general, then you have this one thing.
You still have a sign of nifaq. You need to get rid of it.
And we need to get rid of it. Exactly. That's what I wanted to focus on, is that we need to focus on it in the sense that we need to get rid of this issue. It's not just something, it's not something little.
That's right.
Can you tell us some stories of the Sahaba regarding keeping their promise, and how lengthy, or the length at which they went to keep their promises?
May Allah bless you. I would like us to add something on the last question, which is, what is hypocrisy? Just quickly.
Sure.
I will go through it. Some people, they might just get confused. Hypocrisy, it is basically a disagreement between the heart and the outer actions, or the tongue or the limbs. We have two types of hypocrisy. One which is major, and one which is minor. The major one will take you out of Islam. And the major one is hypocrisy in faith, in your faith. If you believe, if you show that you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have inside, otherwise you don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is a hypocrisy in faith. And those people are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told that they're going to be in the lowest rank of the hellfire.
And this is the major hypocrisy.
Major hypocrisy. إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. The hypocrites are in the lowest depth of the hellfire. The other one, which is the minor hypocrisy, which is hypocrisy in practice. And this will not take you to Islam, but will lead you towards the major hypocrisy.
SubhanAllah.
Inshallah.
May Allah protect us.
Allahumma
Jazakumullah khair for mentioning these two. It's very important, of course, that we use these terminologies, that we need to know to differentiate between them. So Jazakumullah khair for clarifying that.
The story about one of the fulfilling promises from the Sahaba.
Yes, the story of Anas ibn Nadr.
Well, I always remember the story of Anas ibn Nadr. Anas ibn Nadr is one of the companions who missed the battle of Uhud, the battle of Badr, the first battle in Islam. He missed that battle, and he said, if Allah Ta'ala gave me a chance to fight the disbelievers, Allah Ta'ala will see how I'm going to act and how I'm going to behave. And Allah Ta'ala gave him a chance to fight in the battle of Uhud. And in the battle of Uhud, many of the Sahaba subhanahu wa ta'ala were shocked when they heard the news that Rasulullah was killed. They were shocked, and they were terrified when they heard Rasulullah that he was killed. So Anas radiallahu anhu passed by a group of the companions, and he saw them very shocked. He said, what's wrong? They said, Nabi Rasulullah has been killed. And Nabi Rasulullah, the Prophet was killed, or has been killed. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said to them with a firm answer. He said, if he was killed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then go and die for the same cause that he died for, that he was killed for. And then he fulfilled his promises. And he said, O Allah, I disown the actions of the kuffar who did that to your Prophet. And it was fake news anyway.
Yes.
And then he said, I apologize for the actions of my brothers, the Muslims who were terrified, and some of them fled to Medina. And then he moved on fighting the kuffar, and he fought them until he was killed, and they found in his body 80 injuries. And none of them on his back, all on his front body. That shows how brave he was, and how he fulfilled his promises. And the Sahaba used to say that the verse which Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran is what's talking about him. The verse which Allah Ta'ala said in it, من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه. From the believers are men who truly fulfilled their promises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبًا. Some of them have fulfilled the promises and died for that cause. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. And some are still awaiting. SubhanAllah. وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They never break the promises.
Allahu Akbar. Such a beautiful story that inspires really you to keep something, your promise.
No.
And how far they went in keeping such a promise.
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
Allahu Akbar.
We all aspire to have this great manner.
Can
you give us some advice on some practical
methods
that we can attain this manner?
Inshallah ta'ala. I would say, first of all, these manners, you can acquire them if you train yourself towards them. Train yourself towards them. Always try to train yourself towards these manners. In the hadith, من يتصبر يصبره الله. Whoever practice patience, Allah Ta'ala make him patient. Whoever practice clemency, Allah Ta'ala make him clement. So make sure you practice it. Practice fulfilling promises, and you will feel the happiness in your heart. And ask yourself, how would you feel when you break your promises? You feel that sorrow in your heart, isn't it? So practice this manner. Also, secondly, remember that this manner is, breaking your promises is a sign of hypocrisy. And it will lead you towards the hypocrisy, the major hypocrisy. Make sure that you get rid of that as soon as you can. Thirdly, don't promise anyone anything unless if you can do so.
That's a very, very good
Don't
point.
promise unless if you can do so. And be clear with people. Don't say, well, I will come tomorrow, and then you know that you won't be able to do it.
Exactly.
You say, I can't do it. And be careful in making promises. Be very careful.
This is a very excellent point that you made.
Don't jeopardize your deen. Just
people always just make these promises just so to make the other person feel better. I'll do this for you. Let's do this and let's do that and agree on something. And when they know they can't do it, but just
you will harm him more when you don't come. You don't turn up.
And it's true. And true that you feel bad if somebody breaks their promise to you.
That's right. You feel so much. You will feel the harm. Subhanallah. So therefore, you just don't promise anyone unless if you are able to do so, inshallah ta'ala. And remember that this is a sign of the hypocrisy, and sign of the hypocrite people. Just avoid it and stay away from it, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh. We've come to the end of our program. I'd like to thank our viewers and our Shaykh again, Shaykh Saeed, Jazakumullah khair.
Allahumma ameen.
I wanted to conclude with the ayah again, O you who believe, fulfill your promises. And my advice to myself and to the viewers is to try to be careful of what you say. And if you make a promise, you need to fulfill your promise. And if you break this promise, it's a very big issue. It's not something small. May Allah help us be of those who keep their promises and enter us into Jannah. I hope you find this program beneficial, and please stay tuned for our other episodes where we mention the other manners that we are supposed to have. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you again for tuning in to the excellence of manners. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Fortunate is he who remembers Allah abundantly, worldly distractions cannot mildly sway his thoughts of Allah and Judgment Day. Righteous is he who bows to one he cannot see, whose deeds do not spring without Bismillah, fulfilling his task with perfect taqwa.